Hey, I'm Tom.
And I'm John.
And we're the co-founders of Hanson Frank Illustration Agency.
In this series, we'll be sitting down and talking to our illustrators, finding out more about them, their artistic process, and the creative industry we work in.
Welcome to our podcast.
So, just me on the podcast today. Bit of a different one, this one. This is John, by the way. I should introduce myself. I jumped on the train this morning and came to Paris. Unfortunately, no Tom today. But I've come here today to meet with someone who I feel like I've known for a long time, but I've never actually met. And we're in a hotel room, 5-minute walk from the Eiffel Tower. And I'm really, really pleased to introduce Luis Mendo.
Hello, John.
Luis, how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's very, very strange. Like
I know.
24 hours ago, I was in Tokyo. Now I am in Paris. I am sitting next to you, which is like unreal.
Because the first thing you said to me was, "You're real."
Are you real? We've never met in person, and we've been working together 3.5 years.
I think I was trying to work it out. I think about 3.5.
3.5. I never met in person. It's amazing. Again, I'm really sorry that Tom couldn't make it today, because mostly I work with Tom on an everyday basis.
I know. As I've already said, I'm the sub.
But it's always fantastic to meet the person behind that Zoom window and those 1,000 emails I have from you guys. So yeah, it's great.
We'll have to do a proper meeting with Tom at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm so pleased to be here. It's we can talk about why we're here.
Exactly. We need to clarify why Paris.
We can cover that. But I one thing I've started to ask artists at the start of the podcast as an opening question is, can you describe your work?
Sure. I get this question often, and I'm always very worried, because you could describe it like, how does it look like, but also what is it like? And what it looks like is very organic. It feels very analog, although I make everything digital with the iPad and Procreate. But it always feels like it's made, like printed 400 years ago, maybe. And it's all made by hand, which it is, but it feels very analog. What I try to do with my work is to always make visible the invisible. So what I try to do is communicate feelings with my drawings that are never, they're not easy to touch with your fingers, like, melancholy or happiness or dynamism, things that you cannot really draw as literally.
Yeah,
I try to make them clear with my drawings.
Convey. There's a really interesting description on your website.
Oh, is that?
I was reading.
Remind me.
I've done some research.
Yeah, very good.
It says on your website that you prefer subjects that are sensory-driven stories.
Right.
Urban life, objects, animals, and people in context.
Right.
Luis tries to make the mundane things look special, and as you say, make visible the invisible.
Right. The mundane, make it special is something that really goes to the core, because that's exactly what I do. I have this thing. I come from a working class family. I've been all my life very hands-on and never in the elite of the intellectualism or whatever. So I've been always very much trying to reach my grandma or my mother, even that she's not any, related to art at all. So I always think that if you keep things mundane but special, you are giving a service to the people that are not normally attracted to art or to intellectual subjects, but they are touched by it.
So there's a universal quality to it.
And I think that's important. I think that the normal, everyday people should be also given the chance to enjoy art and to enjoy visual poetry or visual beauty. And that's what I try to do. Like, I try to speak to everyone, either the concierge, the doorman of the hotel, to whoever the president of the United States. No, not that one. Maybe the prime minister.
But there is always that quality in your work, and it's funny. Obviously, I'm very, very familiar with your work. I look at it all the time, and it really does convey emotion. And it's interesting that you're going into it with that. That's not a secondary. That's not a coincidence or a byproduct. That is an actual objective when you start.
Yeah, I think it's because I put my heart into it, and it's often the case that whenever there's a subject and I get a request from a client or something, and do you want to do this job? The first thing I ask myself is, does it touch me? Does it do something with me? Otherwise, I won't be able to put myself inside. And if I don't do that, the work will be bad. So I prefer not to start.
Okay.
So
that's a factor when you start a project, when you get given a brief or a proposition. That's the first thing you question.
The first thing I question is that does it do something for me? Like, does it touch me? Does it touch a subject that I think is interesting? Or, often I reject projects that have a negative tone, like talking about death or talking about cancer or something like that, because it's for me very difficult to talk about negative things. I try to make things positive and cheerful in a way. Not overly cheerful, but positive. But sometimes, maybe it's a story about cancer, but I know it's going to help people to get a better view on it or to get better because they are cancer patients or family of cancer patients. So that will be a reason for me to do it. You know what I mean? So it has to have some kind of personal involvement, and it can have many forms and ways of being personal involving for me. Am I being clear?
No, it makes sense completely. I mean, I think
it's a bit difficult to explain.
All of your images convey emotion, and I think another quality that you have in your work, which is perhaps we can talk about this, but nostalgia. I feel like there's often an element of nostalgia, or almost some of your illustrations look like looking at a happy memory.
I try to make them. I know. I totally understand that people can say that, and there's a kind of vintage feeling to it
in the aesthetic.
Yeah, because when I have to draw a phone, I will just draw an old, backlight phone.
Yeah.
Or when I draw a desk, I will put a typewriter or something like that. I understand that, but what I'm trying to convey is a kind of universality and atemporality. How do you say? Like, it has no time definition. Like, it could be a phone, a latest iPhone and a computer and a typewriter on the desk. So that
you don't want to place it in time and place.
Exactly. I have to make it. I want to make it that in 30 years is still contemporary, but it's also non-contemporary.
Well, it's interesting when you watch a film, for example. Nothing can date a film like the phone that somebody's talking on.
Exactly, the interface when they zoom in, and that's what I want to avoid. I want to make it so that it could be today, it could be yesterday, it could be tomorrow.
It's almost timeless. Yeah. We obviously made a film with you last year, and I rewatched that this morning, which I always like to do as a bit of research. But you describe your process in that film as the Karate Kid process.
Oh yeah, wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Talk us through what you mean by that.
Well, in the sense that I don't. Normally when you draw, the classic way of drawing is you make first a sketch in a rough sketch, then you put it into pencils, which is like a basic lines, and then you put it into ink, and then your color. And I try not to do that, to keep it fresh, because I know if I do that, my drawing will become very static and very forced, and the figures become very lifeless. So I use the Quentin Blake technique, which is you make the drawing full on the first time. Yeah. And then you repeat on it. You trace on top of it the next version. And it's the same drawing, but you improve on the things that you didn't like about the first version. Okay. And you do it again and again. So normally the figures, not the whole thing, but the figures, the characters, the animals, if there are any, I will repeat them like 30 times. 30? Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it goes on 2 or 3, but if I'm lucky.
And how are you at, how do you know when it's finished?
It just feels good. Everything I do, like we'll go back to the feeling, is based on gut feeling. It's like my guide and my mantra. It's like, does it feel good? or doesn't. And oftentimes you have a deadline, and it's very frustrating. That's my wife. She's like, "What's wrong with you today?" It's like, "Yeah, but I'm trying to do this drawing and it doesn't work." And you have to give it time. And it's not like an accountant's job that you have from 6 to 7. You have 1 hour to fill in some Excel sheet. It's like you have to be lucky that in that time span that you have, the inspiration and
it finds you.
The universe aligns.
Stars align. Yeah, sure.
The stars aligns for you, and
Yeah.
it sometimes it's tough.
Yeah.
But that's why I made a book recently, a scene, and it's called Oil. I have it right here. It's called Oil, Inks, and Tears, because that's the 3 ingredients of my work. It's
Okay, oil, ink, and tears. Yeah.
when this, how do you make this drawing? And they says, watercolor and on canvas or whatever. And I say all inks and tears, because I suffer so much. And people say, yeah, but why do you suffer? I enjoy much drawing. I say, yeah, I enjoy drawing too. But until you get there where you want to be, it takes a lot of
And do you go
suffering
through
sometimes.
So do you go through phases with that? Do you feel you go through phases where the stars are aligned and everything is feeling good, and then phases where it's not? Things
Some days it's like, we say in Spanish, the Holy Mary came down from the sky and kissed me on the forehead. It's like you are so happy because everything goes well and you can do 3 drawings in one day. And other days you wake up and nothing comes out. And it's like a lottery, but you have to accept that that's how it goes.
Do you feel, I've heard songwriters talk about when they've written a great song, they almost describe it as they were a conduit for it, like it kind of came through them, but they weren't that conscious.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Do you feel like that about drawing sometimes, or?
No, I never thought about that way. I think more like if it doesn't work, I think, okay, first it's not the day. Today it's not gonna work. And second, I'm not doing good enough. Like I'm not putting myself enough into it. So
are you quite hard on yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Work-wise. Yeah. Very hard.
High standards.
Yeah, because I live in Tokyo. Okay, and I'm surrounded by makers, by craftsmanship. Around me in our neighborhood, there are lots of people making things in leather and tatami makers and whatnot. And I see them working every day, and I see them work the ass off every day. But if you talk to them, they are like super humble about it. It's like, no, what I do is really bad. Oh, I've been only working like 40 years. I'm still starting on it.
Yeah.
And you think, really, 40 years? You must be a master. But they consider themselves not a master at all. And I learn from that kind of attitude. I really enjoy the humility about it. And I want to have that too. I want to think, okay, whatever I do is not good enough. And knowing that makes me only better, because I will try to keep trying, keep learning, and keep working on a better tomorrow. And I think it's much better than thinking, I'm fantastic and everything I do is gold. I don't know how the people can think like that, because if I thought like that, then what's the point of doing it then?
Yeah, if you've already reached that mountaintop.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the point? So no, I just keep trying. And sometimes clients, I know that they get a bit overwhelmed because I make too many versions. They ask one version, I send them like 3 or 4 different color versions. Oh, choose one. And it's like, in a way, I feel like, oh, maybe they think I'm weak because I don't choose for them.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, I think there are many good solutions for the same problem. So when I was a designer, which I was 20 years long, and I made a logo, I never said this is the logo. I knew that you could make 20 good logos for a company or a brand, and maybe 10 of them are really good.
Yeah.
There's no only one solution for things. So in drawing is the same. You make an illustration, but you can make also a different one. You can change the camera angle, you can change the color palette, you can change the lighting, and it will give different options to the client, which is good, I think, because sometimes you don't know exactly the angle that the client wants to put in the work. Sometimes they ask for one thing and they actually prefer a different one that they didn't see yet or they didn't imagine yet. So it's good to have more than one option. So that's what I try to do.
You try and do it, and also, do you feel like that offers I don't know. Do you like giving a client choice? Do you feel that offers value to them? In a way?
And I think it's all based in the same thing, that I don't feel like a star. You know, I don't feel like, oh, I'm
the definitive.
Yeah, I'm not
version of this,
Mick Jagger, and what you get is what I do, and if you don't like it, go away. I'm just a humble craftsman. What I do is a little thing that many people could do, only maybe I do it in a way that is a bit special, but it's not that special that I know the truth and you don't, because you're the client.
But I would implore anyone listening to this podcast that doesn't know your work to go and I think they will realize you were being incredibly humble.
Am I? No, I'm honest to God, like honest, John. Like, you know, when I started as an illustrator, you know, maybe we should go back to
I was
how
say,
I started as an illustrator. That's
maybe
very important.
I have a structure here, so we'll I want to go back to, because again, going back to the film that we made with you, there's a line that you deliver very well at the start of the film where you say, you know, I'm a Spanish illustrator, born in the 60s, and then you look at the camera. So let's go back to the start. Spanish illustrator, where did you grow up? What was school like? You know, tell us about how you first discovered art.
You have a minute? How long is this podcast?
Well, you know, I bought new batteries, so we should be good for a bit.
So very short, I will, you know, make it as I will summarize because otherwise we'll be here until tomorrow. So I was born in the 60s, right, at the end of the 60s, 1969, in Salamanca, a small town in Spain. So like university town, kind of like Cambridge of Oxford. And I studied graphic design and illustration kind of together. But when I finished my studies, I was an art director and a graphic designer for many years, mainly in magazines. So I specialized in editorial. And that's what I did for 20 years in Amsterdam.
Okay, so you left Spain, you lived in Amsterdam.
I studied in the Netherlands, and then I kind of stayed there and lived in Amsterdam for 20 years, working as a graphic designer, making magazines, mainly starting magazines. So a client would come with an idea for a magazine, I would create the first issue and then hand it off. Or doing relaunches, restyling of existing magazines, or doing newspaper design, you know, all kinds of editorial stuff.
Yeah.
And I did that for 20 years, which was great. But it taught me a lot about working in teams, working with printed matter, because it was mainly printing what we did back in the day. And accepting that you are not a star. You are always part of a machine, and everyone is important. Yeah. But, you know, you are not the only thing. And I really like to function like that. Although I was main creative art director for most of the titles I did, and everyone came to me for questioning like, okay, what do you want us to do? But still I felt like, I'm nothing. I'm just part of the team. I just coordinated you guys. And that was really a great ground for me to become an illustrator when I moved to Japan. And I couldn't work as an art director anymore because I don't speak Japanese. I didn't speak Japanese, now a little bit. And when I moved to Japan, I couldn't work on my field, which I had done for 20 years, and I was 44 years old. So I arrived in Japan, and what do?
So what takes you to Japan?
I was burned out. Yeah. I was terribly burned out from Amsterdam and from my job as a creative director. It was too much. I had done, and the weather in Amsterdam was telling me to go somewhere else. And after 20 years, I decided, like, nah, it's time to go. And my father passed away, and I took a sabbatical of 3 months in Tokyo. Yeah. And I really liked that. It was such a nice city, and I like Japan and, you know, the country and the culture. So I thought it would be nice to live here for a year at least. Yeah. So I moved first for a year. But then when 6 months have passed, I thought, well, I'm not going back to Amsterdam. I'm just going to stay here. So I did, and I changed completely my life. I overhauled everything, sold the studio, you know.
But you said before that the decision, or part of the decision to become an illustrator was because there was a language barrier that meant you couldn't communicate and do what you were trained in. So you had to find a new way to communicate, which is kind of what we talked about, the fact your images communicate emotion.
And also a way of living, you know. If you can be your job, your profession that you have done for 20 years, what do you do? So I thought, okay, I think I should do something else. And I was drawing a lot with friends in cafes, in
But had you
Tokyo.
always drawn? Had drawn?
I always had
Yeah.
drawn, but very, for myself in the weekends, I would have a sketchbook in the back, or if we were traveling, I would always have some drawings, but they were really bad. And when I arrived in Tokyo, there was nothing else to do. It's like, okay, you don't know anything, you don't know anybody, but you
So
have a sketchbook.
you're in your mid-40s and you start drawing properly, maybe perhaps for the first
Every day.
time, every day.
That's when I started every day, yeah.
And how quickly did you progress? How quickly did you see it develop?
It was really fast. I think in a matter of a year, because all my friends back in Amsterdam were art directors, and I was putting everything I was drawing on Instagram. They saw it and they asked me, "Can you do an illustration for us?"
So suddenly the former colleagues and peers.
So
yeah.
former friends and
Yeah.
followers, they were like, "Oh, you're illustrating now. Can you do this for us?" And that's how it kind of started. And then a friend of mine in Tokyo said, "Why don't you call my agent and maybe you can work as an illustrator?" And I thought it was a joke. I went to the meeting. I was like, "Okay, this is a joke, and here is my work." And I just put together some sketchbook pieces and show it to them. And at the end of the meeting, they say, "Yeah, we're going to sign you in." So that's how it started.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, sure, you're never gonna call me.
So this is an agent in Tokyo?
In Tokyo, yeah, building.
Yeah, building, yeah.
Which you guys know because
we
you
know
have the
very well,
collaboration,
yeah.
So that's how it all started. But I really thought it as a joke. Like, I will never be an illustrator. My work is like just drawings. But they started calling and, got clients and got jobs, commissions, like a wine label was the first, a Popeye double spread for Popeye magazine was the second. Yeah. And it started rolling. And slowly I started, developing my ways as an illustrator, but always thinking like, no, this is going to be temporary. I don't think this is going to be forever.
So was there a moment where you started to think, oh, actually, was there kind of a tipping point for you?
Maybe when my savings started to run out and I thought, maybe I should consider this more seriously because, with my savings, they're not going to last forever.
So financial...
Yeah, and then I thought also, how wonderful is this drawing thing that you only have to deal with mostly a client?
Yeah.
And just that's it. When I was an art director, it was like 30 people.
Yeah.
You have to communicate. And marketing guy, and the publisher, and, the illustrators and the photographers. And it was such a nightmare. That's what got me burned out in the first place. But being an illustrator, you just deal with 1-2 persons, maybe, and that's it. And I love that directness. And I love the fact that you have one drawing or two, whatever they ask you, but that's it.
Yeah.
But art direction is like so wide. It goes endlessly. You start with a magazine cover and then they want the logo and then they want, can you also think about the headlines? And, we're doing some promotional material. It's endless. While drawing is more concrete, very simple, very quick. And, mostly you have a tight deadline. You have to get before the deadline has to be finished. And it's very clean, very clear. But of course, the money was much smaller than art direction.
Yeah.
So I was making like 1/10 of what I was making as an art director, and I thought, okay, then the only solution is to make much more.
Yeah.
Like make 30 jobs a month instead of 10, and that's what got me going. But that's how it started.
And what kind of? How long ago is this?
That's 10 years. 10 years ago, 9 years ago,
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
That's when. Slowly,
It's interesting that I just want to touch on the fact that you were an art director and you were so presumably you were someone that commissioned illustration.
All the time. Illustration and photography.
And photography, yeah. So do you think that gives you a unique angle or a kind of secret edge when it comes to being on the other side of that?
I don't know an edge, but I would definitely say an understanding of both sides of the table.
Empathy?
Definitely. No, that's another thing that makes me feel less a diva and a star is because I know what it's like to be on the other side of the table and being the person commissioning the illustration, and that most of the art directors are subject to the client's wishes, the client's taste, and they are in between. So I never, get angry at them because I know, okay.
You understand that
I totally understand the position. Yeah. So I would normally I am very flexible, for instance, killing ideas. Like if I have 10 ideas and they kill most of them, I'm fine because I know that's how it goes in the business. Like, the client may not like those.
Yeah.
Or you might have thought of something that you think is brilliant, but then the client might have tried that before, 2 years before, and it was a failure. So they don't want to go down that road. And often illustrators don't realize all the backstory because that's the first time that they work with the client. They don't know what's going on behind the curtain. So having been an art director before makes me so empathetic, and I totally understand. I was like, oh, okay, they don't like this, no problem.
Fine, we'll try something else.
Oh, what? Yeah. They tried pink last season and they didn't work? Okay, let's do green instead.
Yeah.
And I'm totally fine with that. I think that work is just a thing outside of me. I don't take it as something personal. I do take it personal when I have to draw it because otherwise I don't have any relation with the subject. But the product itself is totally meaningless.
It's separate.
It's not important. It's just a product of the process. The process is so much more important. And that's why when people are very attached to the final, like the whole AI discussion, is about the final, and it's like the final is not interesting. What is interesting is the process.
Well,
How do you get there?
AI was something I was going to come on to.
Of course.
Maybe we should talk about it now. One of the things that Dario at Handsome Frank said to me was, we were talking about the fact I was going to come and meet you and talk to you. He said, maybe you should ask Luis about AI, or maybe you shouldn't, because he has very strong feelings about it.
Yeah. I have.
give me. I mean, obviously, this could be an entirely new podcast, but your feeling on AI at the moment is you're very anti it.
It's kind of changing. I must say, it's kind of changing. I think I'm very anti what we have seen people doing with AI so far.
Yeah,
that I'm very anti. But I have to say, recently I had the chance to use AI for a job, and I understood how powerful a tool it can be. And in that sense, I loved it. So what I want to say is I hate the fact that they know, and they said publicly, OpenAI wouldn't work without the use of copyright material.
Yeah.
Now, you are saying on Daylight, you are saying we need to steal in order to make our product.
Yeah.
So that's very, very sad, and it shouldn't be allowed. But as an illustrator, the other day I had a job where I had to make 5 drawings of a room, 5 rooms that were, so they asked 5 famous people to describe their favorite or the ideal living room.
Yeah.
And I had to draw those living rooms. And they would go like, okay, it's a white room with a very big window on the back, and one of the sides has books, and the other, and it has this image chair on the middle. So
you're sent a written transcript of somebody's description of a dream room.
Exactly, and then 5 times.
Yeah.
So I had to do those 5 drawings, and I could research all the items separately, on this kind of rack and that kind of couch and that kind of painting on the wall. But I thought, well, how if I put it on the AI and ask him to make me a room with those objects? And I was very surprised. It made me a really good reference image of what I was looking for.
As a starting point.
Yeah. So there was one who was like, I want a typical South California style living room. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I had to, Google South California style, and then you go into which age are we talking about, the 60s, 50s, the 70s. And using AI was very good shortcut for me to get a good reference feeling of what the person had in mind, and then make it my own in the final drawing.
Yeah, that's...
So as a tool, it works really well.
I think that's exactly the conversation I've had with other artists. The idea of AI as something that is going to be making the definitive image itself without any human hand is crazy and, upsetting, and also kind of immoral from a copyright point of view. But there is certainly an element of AI which can help in Illustrator. And I think that's what we're starting to see now. There are tools that can cut down on the reference process. There are tools that can help you speed up. I'm working on a project at the moment, which I can't really talk about, but it is absolutely sped up the process. Yeah. There will be no sign of AI, or the entire finished animation will be hand rendered.
Yeah.
But that said, AI has helped speed up that process. I think what's kind of disappointing is AI is a technology. It's a technology that is here to stay, but it's also sort of becoming an aesthetic. And personally, I don't really like the AI aesthetic, but it's no different to the NFT aesthetic, which seems to have come and gone. But I think it's important to distinguish the two.
Definitely. You know, I guess it's like, I don't know how old you are, but I was there when the first layers came out in Photoshop, which was version Photoshop 3, I believe.
Yeah.
It came out, and I was against layers. I was like, why do you need layers? You know, I was like, oh, you guys, you nerds, you think that layers are important, but one layer should be the thing. And I was so against it. And someone told me, like, dude, stop, because the layers are going to be the thing.
They're here to stay.
And so, you know, I know I'm wrong by being against AI, but I definitely don't see the point of having a machine making the images for you, because the whole point of making images, if you look a bit of history of painting and the history of art throughout the ages, the whole idea of making the pictures is not the picture itself.
It's the process.
It's the process, and how did they get there and why did they get there. I was today in the Musée d'Orsay here, and I saw these impressionist paintings, and they were amazing. And it was, you could see that the motive wasn't important at all. Well, a girl in the sun, or people having a picnic in the garden, but it wasn't about that. It was about the way it was treated and the way it was approached and the way it was put the camera and the way the colors were put on the canvas, and that's the whole point of art. Communicating through those tools that you have. So yeah, AI eventually will become another tool.
I think you're right, and I think my hope with my kind of optimistic hat on is that actually what we see, if you do have technology that can make images, then actually they'll flood the market and they'll be readily available and cheap. But actually, we will value the artist more because we will value art made by humans and the human touch.
But and I'm sorry to be pessimistic, but it will devalue the middle artists, like the middle market.
I agree.
Like, it's like stock photography. When it came out, before stock photography, every photographer had to eat. They could work. But after stock photography, the cheap photographers got out of
fell away.
Fade away out of the market. So you had to be really good or just make stock. So I think that's what's gonna happen as well.
Yeah, I think it will
art.
push people as well. I think it will push people and improve the quality.
What is the website where you can make illustrations for $5 or something? What is it called? There's this website. I don't remember the name.
I don't. Well, let's not give them publicity.
No, but there is a market of people. Many of my followers on Instagram, they're super nice people and try to make art, and they sell illustrations for $5, $10.
Yeah.
And I feel empathy for them because most of them are beginning and they like to have a couple of jobs to not so much for the money, but to get started and to learn. And I think that those people will be hurt the most because those people, the people that want to pay $5 for it, they prefer to do it for free on Midjourney or whatever.
Yeah, because there's already no value placed on it.
Exactly.
It's a token value anyway.
It's worthless. $5. What?
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for that, but I think that the quality, let's not talk about this anymore. It's so depressing. But I think if we, as artists, we keep thinking of it as a tool, then we are good.
We're good. Yeah. So when we first became aware of your work,
that's good.
I think it was around. Well, I think it was during lockdown.
It was lockdown.
I lose track of which one, but it was about 3.5 years ago. And the thing that the first project or piece of work or series of work that caught our eye was a thing called Homestayer. Tell us about that. That was quite a thing for you, right?
It was a total game changer, and it was a series of drawings. We were all in lockdown, and you know how illustrators, we all want to be on the cover of New Yorker, right? So it's like a what is it called?
The bucket list.
More like the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail of
the Holy Grail for illustrators.
Yeah.
And we were all in lockdown, and I thought, So, the New Yorker is based on the fact that they are in New York, and being in New York, being a New Yorker is something special. But nowadays, wherever you are in the world, you are all homestayer. There is only one city,
We're
and
all
that's
stuck.
the home.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's make a series of drawings for myself with being in homestay. Home scenes of homes that I think should be beautiful enough that you don't mind being in lockdown.
Yeah.
I had worked before with the Tokyo Eiffel, which is one of the spin-offs of the New Yorker.
Which
covers.
is partly run by Andrew Joyce.
Andrew Joyce,
one of our illustrators.
a couple of friends of mine in Tokyo, and you have the Shanghaier and you have the
Parisianaire.
Yeah, Parisianaire. That's how it started, by the way. So you had the New Yorker, and then the Parisianaire was the first, and then the Tokyo Eiffel was kind of the second, and then you have now Montrealer and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, there are so many of those, so one more it won't make a difference.
Let's add one more to the mix.
So I just make it the homestayer, and it just it changed a lot. Many people liked it on Instagram. I made a series of prints, a limited edition of prints that got sold out, especially a couple of them sold out in a couple of days. It was really, really interesting, and then it caught your eye.
Well, this is what and again, they just conveyed emotion and. They were very idyllic, kind of, almost calming illustrations, I think, during a time where, obviously, the world had been turned upside down. And we absolutely loved them. And that was the first kind of hook into your work. And then once I discovered more, obviously, I realised that the great thing about Luis is he can draw anything. So, it turns
Almost.
out... and I talk about this a lot with artists when people ask us what we look for and what are the qualities we look for in an illustrator. One is, the signature style, an ownable style, which is kind of unique to you, which you absolutely have. But secondary to that is the ability to draw anything within that style. So, that variety in subject matter. And I think that is in abundance in your portfolio, and that's why you end up working with so many different clients, because you can draw characters and people and food and drink and buildings and interiors.
But mind you, at the beginning I was very nervous about that. I told everyone, I don't know.
Well, you think you've gone too broad?
I went too broad, and people always say, but don't worry, because you can see that it's all you. But I was very afraid of it, and now I am very happy.
Yeah.
I was pushing to keep doing that variated portfolio. First, because I learned to draw many things, but second is because I think that you should keep your options open.
Yeah.
Always. When I was a designer, I didn't work for one client or one specific industry. I thought it was the most non-clever thing that you could do.
Yeah, to get stuck in a.
You remember, what was it, 2008? There was a crisis of the banks that went all down. And I had so many friends working only for bank institutions and insurance companies. They all went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Because all the companies didn't commission any design
all your
anymore.
eggs in one basket. Yeah.
Right. So I thought, okay, actually it's very good to have different ways of different styles. And they all have to be yours, but within a certain limit, but you should be serving different industries, different kind of clients, editorial, but also brands, but also,
Well, I have to say it's completely worked, because it's opened you up to so many different
and I love it.
Types of clients. We've worked with, Mont Blanc pens, but we've also worked with like bakery chains.
Exactly.
A huge mix.
Yeah, and editorial magazines and newspapers. No, and also, another reason to stay so variated for me is that I love the change.
Yeah.
Imagine every day you will do only bakeries,
repeating
or only,
yourself. Yeah.
Only big brands of luxury items. I'm like, oh, it's so boring.
Yeah.
I want
that variety.
I want the variety.
So, is there anything you can't draw?
So much, man. So much. I still think that drawing, my drawing has severe limitations, like what I can draw, especially the human figure. I struggle a lot, so I tend to pull too much from reference, and I wish it would come more natural. And I feel that I should be drawing much more all kinds of things. Like, don't ask me to draw a horse, for instance.
Well, horses are...
Oh, dude, a horse is a nightmare. And in a way, you know, like some artists have this kind of loose style that they draw a horse, and although it's not anatomically not correct, it doesn't matter.
It kind of works, yeah.
Yeah, but in my style, it's like it looks really bad.
Yeah.
So
okay.
in that sense, I wish I was better at the drawing. So I wish I knew more anatomy. More
You wait, we'll get
muscles.
a commission from Royal Ascot next week now.
Uh,
We'll have to edit
AI
this
to
out.
the rescue.
I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
your Almost Perfect project in Tokyo.
Yeah, it's almost ending, by the way.
Almost ended. Well, I
Almost
know it's
ending, yeah.
changing, but
Yes,
tell us
yes.
what it
So,
is, and then
okay.
what it has been, and what
So
it's
when
going to be.
when I met my wife, we started. We moved to a bigger house because we were living in a small house, and we moved. We found this house, which was an old rice shop, and it was a rice shop on the bottom at the first floor, and then the 2 floors on top there was the family house who ran the shop. So we rented from them, and it was a bit too big of a house for us. So we thought, well, what can we do with the extra space? And we decided to do this creative residence with one room where artists from abroad would come to Tokyo, stay there, make make some piece or a project, and then do an exhibition on the what used to be the rice shop.
Okay.
So that was the idea. We offer a room, space to work, studio space, and exhibition space. So the chance to do a show in Tokyo, which is kind of attractive for many creatives. So we started doing that, and it was great. We did 5 years, COVID in between, so we had to close for 2 years because of the border regulations in Japan were very strict. But we did 5 years. We hosted about 100 artists from all around the world, all kinds. So we had entrepreneurs, musicians, dancers.
Okay, so we're not
sculptors.
limiting this to...
No. All kinds of creativity were welcome. And I did all the creative direction. Of course, I did all the design the website, everything. And my wife did all the logistics, finance, and the real work, planning, which you shouldn't let me do it. And we did great. It was fantastic. But the house is really old. It's a 100-year-old rice shop, which is made of wood. And when we got it, we rented from the original owners. And when we got it, we renovated, but basic renovation because we didn't know whether it was going to work or not, the concept.
Yeah.
And now it starts to wear down, so we're thinking, maybe we should renovate fully.
Yeah, okay.
But, it's a big step. And we have a child, which we didn't have when we started.
Yeah, who I just met.
Yeah. And my wife back then didn't have a job, so it was like, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And I had very few clients, so, we can do this too. But nowadays we have, a child, and Yuka has a very important position in the NGO where she works, and I have all these big clients pulling from me, and I'm trying to work on my artistic career as an artist. So it's like difficult to keep all the balls floating at the same time. So what we are doing, we're going to change the concept. So we're going to keep Almost Perfect as a concept, as an idea, but in a different space, which is a new apartment.
Okay.
Which we're going to buy.
In Tokyo, though?
In Tokyo.
Yeah.
And we want to renovate and make it nice for creatives. So, a nice working table. If you have an Airbnb, normally they have very bad small city tables.
You want a desk you can sit and work at.
You want a nice desk.
Ironically, we're currently sat in a hotel at a very small desk.
You see, this is what you get. So you need a nice desk, maybe an easel if you're a painter. Maybe a Wacom to work on, a nice view because that's also very important for creatives.
Yeah,
and also some kind of guidelines of things to do in the city that have to do with creativity. Who makes washi paper? Who works leather? Where can you do woodblock printing? All those kind of things. So create it in a way that it doesn't need our constant attention, as it is now. It needs constant attention. So it will be more hands-off for us, but still be a possibility for creatives.
It lives
to come.
on. Yeah. Oh, it's a lovely
and
idea.
Keep the brand.
And you must have met some incredible people.
Oh, dude, it was so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the payoff. Because all the work that you put in, the hours aren't paid, but the people are wonderful. And we made
and
really
you're still
good
in touch
friends.
with many of them.
All of them, like most of them. and they come back to Tokyo and it's like, oh, I wish I could stay again. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, only for residency.
Once off, one
Yeah.
only, one time.
Many people that they tell how Almost Perfect changed their lives because, when you're a creative, you're in this machine that you are going deadline to deadline.
Treadmill, yeah.
And you know how it is. And if you had these 15 or 30 days in between to just work on something that you like, maybe change techniques, learn something new, get to know new people, get lost in a country that is so alien because Japan is like a different planet. That's a chance for many people as a creative.
Yeah, I think it's almost a reset, isn't it? It's if you go away and experience something different or a new culture, you come back just refreshed.
It is very eye-opening because you look very much, everywhere because everything's new. But at the same time, and I know this because that's what I did when I went for sabbatical to Tokyo the first time. At the same time, you look very much inwards. Because all of a sudden you're in a country you don't speak the language. You cannot
so it kind of frees you in a way from.
Yeah, it liberates you from all the the bullshit. I'm sorry about the word.
Yeah.
But when you are in your hometown or you are always listening all the politics and the people in the train. You understand everything. Yeah. But suddenly you are in Japan. You don't understand what people is talking about.
Yeah.
You can be having ramen next to a pop star and you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going on in the politics. You don't know who the president is, and doesn't matter to you. And that liberates your brain to think about your creation and about having more input, more inspiration, and do something with it immediately. So most people get, to finally draw in a sketchbook, which they would never get to it in a normal day-to-day life. Or learn a new technique that they couldn't, where do you learn to make your own paper in wherever you live? So it's really good.
Do you think you would have become an illustrator if you hadn't have moved to Tokyo?
That's a good question, man. I don't think so. I mean, maybe because I couldn't do my creative direction work anymore because it was too stressful. Maybe. But maybe I could have done something completely different, like owning a bookshop, which is a dream of mine.
Yeah, I've seen your... you've done this incredible illustration of a guy in a kind of dusty old bookstore surrounded. That's
By
the
books.
dream, right?
That's the dream. And there's a sign that says, silence, please. And you don't need to buy anything. It's less, I'm just in the bookshop. You don't have to come in and talk to me or ask me about books. If you want a book, just take it. I would love that.
I have a similar dream about a record store.
Yeah, I can imagine. That totally fits you.
Yeah, be nice. One day.
Yeah,
one day.
One day.
We should probably say while we're in Paris then.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So we are in Paris because I'm having this exhibition in the gallery Un jour, une illustration, One Day, One Illustration, which is a gallery owned by a friend of mine. And it's very interesting. This lady, Joanna Giorno is her name, she had an account where she would put every day a drawing of Senpei on Instagram and had a big following. And suddenly one day she stopped posting because the family of Senpei had complained or had said, no, you have to, you don't have the copyrights to put this.
To do this anymore, yeah.
So she changed into One Day, One Illustration. It was called One Day, One Senpei, and she changed it to One Day, One Illustration. And she started promoting illustration.
Yeah.
And, since I was following her because I love Senpei, I thought, okay, this is even better. You are promoting young people or people we don't know, especially French artists.
So this is on Instagram?
This one on Instagram, yeah. So One Year, One Illustration. And then we became friends by talking, like, oh, well done and good job. And one day she says, I'm actually opening my gallery. I found a space and I'm opening my gallery. And I was super supportive, like, oh, you should do it. Yes, go for it. And she's like, oh, but the logo, I don't know what to do because I don't know my logo. I got a logo, but I don't like it so much. I said, oh, don't worry, I'll do your logo. So I made her logo.
Oh, so you did the logo? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Thinking, I'm going to support this person. She's doing a good job. And then immediately she said, okay, I'm going to pay you with an exhibition one day. I was like, yeah, sure, don't worry. We'll see. And
here we are.
Indeed, 2 years later, she was like, 1 year later, now I want your exhibition. So here we are.
Yeah.
I'm doing an exhibition at her gallery.
And we're like we're literally
2 doors down.
2-minute walk from the Eiffel Tower.
Also
right here.
Very close to Eiffel Tower.
I mean, this is, this is a great spot.
it's very, very, very nice to be here. And I'm very flattered, because she wanted me to have a job. I thought, oh, that's to pay me back for the logo that I didn't charge for. But she was like, no, I really like your work. So I was like, okay, let's do it.
So you're showing new work that you've created.
Yeah. So the idea behind but let's go back, because I have another big show in Seoul.
Yes, we
which
saw that.
opened in July, and it's still going. So there's going to be an overlapping of 2 days. The show in Seoul is going to close on the 12th of February.
Yeah.
And the one in France, in Paris, is opening on the 10th. So it's going to be 2 days. I'm going to have 2 shows at the same time, one in Seoul, one here. And the one in Seoul is completely different.
Yeah.
So the one in Seoul is a selection of my archive, a big chunk of my work, which is like 500 pieces.
Originals?
No,
reprints?
everything is printed.
Printed, yeah.
And it's not an exhibition that you go and you have all these things on the wall, framed on the wall. It's more like experiential.
Yeah.
So you have projections, and you have big prints and small prints and prints with a light behind. And there is sculptures made of my characters. They made a big cat.
Incredible. Yeah, I've seen the big inflatable.
The big inflatable on the rooftop with my face, which is like where people go and take photos, which is funny. So it's a very different exhibition. It's more like experiential, if you want. And that one is been going for months, and people still love it, it seems. Do you know how many people came last month? They told me the numbers. 80,000 people.
Wow, Luis, you're famous now.
But dude, no, I was like, really? 80? The one exhibition I had before was in a pizza parlor of a friend of mine, and nobody came. It was like people came to dinner, but they saw something on the wall and the pizza, but not for my work. And now 80,000 people.
Fantastic.
In a city nobody knows me, in Seoul, in Korea, in South Korea. So I was very pleased with that. But now the one in Paris is much smaller. It's just, it's a small living room, as it were. And I have in total maybe like 30 pieces, of which completely new, there are only like 14 and 10 sculptures. And the rest is kind of work that I've done before, and I've given them a refresh. I call them remastered. So I changed the colors. I did remixed. I drew more context around them, more detail. Some of them completely redrew again from I started from the original picture and made a new version of it. So it's kind of new interpretation, but it's mainly new work.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I called it Bonjour Paris, because it's a way of me introducing myself to Paris, because nobody knows me here. So it's like, hello, I'm here. Hey, Paris.
I've arrived.
How you doing? Yeah.
And we were going to go along on Saturday. Opens, well, it's Thursday. I should say it's Thursday today. And it opens on Saturday. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to let you go in a minute. I
ramble too much. Sorry,
John. I have...
What do you have?
I have a little gift for you.
The How to Cook the Perfect Illustration Commission.
This is a little collaboration we've done with Luis, which is a tea towel, which is an illustrated guide on how to commission an illustrator, and he very kindly did the illustrations for us.
Yeah, that looks great, man.
Yeah, they look good. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like a visual gift on a podcast that people can't see, but
I can say I'm seeing it with my eyes, and it looks amazing.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So we're sending those out soon to clients to tell people how to commission an artist.
How many do you made?
I think we had about 500 printed.
500?
Yeah.
Okay, if you want one, what do the people have to do to get one?
Well, how can we get, maybe we should do a little giveaway.
Become a client.
Become a client would be the first thing.
The bigger the job, the better the tea towel.
Oh, if you get a whole apron if you commission Luis. The other thing I want to ask you about, just before we go, which I love and I'm reminded of every year, is your tradition on your birthday.
Oh,
tell us what you do on your birthday every year.
So I want to say it on the air so that everyone knows. If I was born in 1969, I'm 54.
54, yeah.
Right?
You're exactly 10 years older than me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
79.
You look like 20 years younger than me.
No.
Anyway, when you become old, you think, I'm older, and people complain about their bodies or things. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, dude, I'm great. Look at me. I still look great for my age. But how do you, kind of reinforce that for yourself?
Yeah.
By drawing myself naked.
Every year you draw
every
yourself
year,
naked.
I draw
love
myself
this.
naked and put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you look back on my Instagram, every 24th of November, you will see a drawing of my naked.
Fantastic.
For the last 4 or 5 years. And I think it's funny because at the end of the day, we are all just what you are.
Yeah.
And you become older and you start not giving a shit what people think about you or what they say about you. So that's my way of saying,
Here I
don't
am.
give a shit.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm chubby. And
Here I am, still
I'm
not giving a
hairy.
shit.
Hey, look at me. No, I have no hair on my head, but I have on my chest. And that's it. I try to be honest about it. So.
Yeah, it's such a good little tradition. I love that.
So-
well, look, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I think we should go out and have some dinner.
Sounds great to me.
So, we'll end the podcast there. But
Are the listeners also coming to the dinner?
yeah, come on, you're all welcome. Come find us.
Come find us.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, John.
And if you'd like to know more about Handsome Frank and our artists, check out our website, handsomefrank.com.
Thanks very much for listening.
Handsome Frank.
Why do you need layers? I was like, oh, you guys, you nerds,